Hey there, and welcome to me being back in 2023. This is my first video that I'm recording on nervous system regulation and how I use it in my Jiu Jitsu. And I wanted to just sort of branch out a little bit and talk about why nervous system regulation is so important. Um, I think it gets glossed over a lot. Martial arts can be this really competitive place for a lot of people. But there's this really fascinating stat that there's only like 20% of the population who train in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu or other forms of Jiu Jitsu that actually want to compete. So most people are coming to Jiu Jitsu because it's super fun and they like to roll and they like the dojo atmosphere, the dojo culture, the mat culture. Obviously, my husband and I, we run a traditional Japanese school that also does Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. So I come from a traditional background when it comes to my martial arts. And it took me a really long time before I realized how dysregulated my nervous system was. Trained all the way through, to get my fourth black belt in Kokudo Jiu Jitsu before I started really putting two and two together, that there were times when I was on the mat and I would dissociate. I would check out. I would just sort of go somewhere else because the memories that were getting activated became too overwhelming for me to regulate, titrate, or manage. So I would just go somewhere else. Now, dissociation is not always a bad thing. Elite athletes dissociate all the time, meaning they get myopic, they get 100% focused on what they're trying to achieve. Nothing else matters. They're in the zone, they're in that pocket to achieve a specific outcome. Great. But what if you dissociate because you're so overwhelmed and you're not tracking this? How many times have you left the dojo, left the gym, got home, and have no recollection of the drive? You just went through the motions by rote. I bet a lot of you have. I know I certainly have. So why nervous system regulation is important is because I want there to be a dialogue for all of us about what it means to have a healthy mind and body. Most of us are training because we like the physical aspect of it. We like the health aspect of it. And, we can continue this conversation by talking about the emotional intelligence that's available to us on the mat. I believe that a lot of people do jujitsu because there is a tactile element. We're touching each other, we're holding each other, we're grappling each other, we're trying to mount and displace another person. We're all over each other, right? We're touching each other all over the place. That in itself can be therapeutic. Now, of course, this is safe touch. Don't get weird. This is two training partners who are working through drills in a agreed upon setting that we're trying to execute a technique. I'm going to try to mount you. I'm going to try to displace you, your weight. I'm going to try to choke you out. I'm going to try to get an arm bar. Okay. If you don't do jiu-jitsu, don't watch my videos. Okay. Because you're not going to know the context and I don't want you to miss the point of this. There's a natural co-regulation that can happen with your buddies that you train with your friends that you care about, where you are rolling around together. That in itself can be incredibly soothing and therapeutic because you have to sync your breath to one another. You have to modulate your breath for yourself so that you can stay in the suck and withstand the pressure that comes at you. And you have this tactile agreement between each other that you're not going to hurt each other. Dojos are a safe place. Good dojos are a safe place where you're not going to hurt your partner and you're not going to get hurt in turn. So I think that's a really cool thing that is in this art form and is in sports a lot of times for dudes, right? Dudes in sports are a lot more tactile traditionally than girls are. So I want to be able to continue to bring this topic of nervous system regulation into the arena, because if you don't know what regulation means, I bet dollars to donuts, you know what dysregulation means, right? Dysregulation is when you are cranky, upset, hot-tempered, manic, overreacting, disassociative, maladaptive coping mechanisms, meaning you're drinking more, you're smoking more, you're taking drugs, you're eating all the foods, you're binge watching an entire season of something. Those are all signs of dysregulation, right? Can you get dysregulated on the mat? 100%. I've seen it. I've seen it with our students where they just black out. They go somewhere else. There's a level of rage and violence within every single one of us. That's not a bad thing. What is bad is not being able to talk about it, is not being able to have a safe place to be like, yeah, I have rage. I have violence. And how do I find an outlet for that? How do I safely communicate that I have these feelings? Where do they go? Can those feelings show up when you're rolling with somebody? 100%. So much is happening. You can get demoralized like that when you get mounted, choked out. Somebody's stronger than you. Somebody has better technique than you. So where do you go? Where do can you start out super regulated? You're on top of your game. You're in what we could call the ventral vagal nervous system. And then boom, you're getting submitted. You're gassing out. You're not breathing as well. You're dropping down to the dorsal vagal. Now it's getting a bit muddier, a bit thicker. Maybe our thoughts aren't coming as clear. We want it so bad. We're looking for it. We're not going to have maybe the same patience. We've slipped out of being regulated. Does this resonate with you? Can you see how this may have happened? Even in our stand-up in Kokodo Jiu Jitsu, I'm going through my Kaiden training right now, and it is demoralizing. Because I have CPTSD, I have a hard time with authority, and I have a hard time with being talked down to. I get really activated, and nobody's trying to do either of those two things purposely. This is a traditional Japanese dojo. There's a hierarchy involved. I am here to learn something that I don't know, and I don't have the skill for it. I don't have the cognitive awareness for it, and my body isn't responding in a way that's familiar to me because this is all brand new. So in my last Kaiden training, I could feel myself getting super dysregulated because the amount of information that was coming at me, I wasn't able to process it. The way I was asking questions came across as maybe too cheeky, too bold, too much. There was too much of me asking questions, which I respect and I understand. And there's a lot of pain, right? There is a lot of pain in Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. We are doing incredible energy transfer work and joint manipulation and joint locks. And, you're feeling somebody's ki. Like it's coming into you. You get like fantastic like exit wounds in your kidneys and hamstrings. And it's a phenomenal, beautiful quantum art form. So it happens in not just a ground game, but it can happen in a stand-up game. And it happens in life. We are electrical beings, and we are going to have states of being regulated, and we are going to have states of being dysregulated. So I've talked about dysregulation. Now regulated is when you're calm, you're even, you're able to problem solve, you're aware, you're present, you're not overly reactive, right? And that regulated state I see in society few and far between, right? I see a high level of dysregulation amongst the populace. Uh, And that's one of the reasons I love having a dojo. I love having a place where I could see somebody come in after their day of life, and you can kind of it's like that Linus, where he had all those like squiggles all over his around his drawings, like all the like speech bubbles that weren't coherent and pre-verbal. And then they get on the mat, and everybody who trains at Sadohana are brilliant humans. I feel like they all carry a fairly high level of emotional intelligence, meaning they don't dump on each other and they don't hurt each other. And so after they train and after they have a good session, and even while we're training, there's smiles and there's laughter and there's this sense of community and this collective co-regulation that we're all doing together that I think is beautiful. So I wanted to try to do like a little different long form video today to kind of get into it. I don't have a clip of me doing my jujitsu, which my BJJ isn't noteworthy at the moment, except for the fact that I show up and I keep doing it. I just wanted to share this space with you to talk about why I'm so passionate about nervous system regulation. And it's not just for people who have CPTSD or who have big T or little t trauma, because frankly, I think everybody does. I think we've all been traumatized to some level just by the nature of our culture and the world that we live in. And the fact that our parents most likely didn't know how to regulate their nervous system. I grew up in the 70s and 80s, right? So there was, I saw behavior that was totally normalized and pervasive, which was drinking and smoking. And nobody talked about feelings. Nobody talked about anxiety or stress or nervous system regulation. This wasn't a thing. And then you think about our parents, you're thinking about post-war babies and you're thinking about war and what it's done to our society and what the collective impact of significant emotional events have on us. And jujitsu is an outlet for a lot of us to work out these non-verbal sensations that we have. And I'm asking for us to have a verbal conversation about what are the feelings that you're having. So when you learn how to work with nervous system regulation, I follow the work of Peter Levine. I'm studying polyvagal theory. Why I think I could talk to you about this is because I know how much I've healed myself and the work that I do and continue to do. This isn't just theoretical. I caution anybody to take advice from somebody who doesn't have a body practice, because the body is the greatest educator that we can have. Everything gets stored in our body. Cognitively, we can think our way around in circles and come up with all sorts of things, but the body will never lie. You will always know what's going on when you get into your body. So nervous system regulation starts with understanding how to be open to listening to your body. The fancy word for it is interoception, listening to the cues that come up inside your body. Proprioception, where does your body exist in space? Where's your arms? Where's your legs? How do you move from one position to the next? I'm constantly amazed at how Sometimes my body just doesn't respond to the commands that I'm giving it. It has an inability sometimes. And I bet yours does too. And there's no judgment here. None of this is for you to critique yourself or judge yourself. This is just information for you to consider and to think, and possibly begin this exploration for yourself on how can you tone this electrical system within you that informs everything you do, which is our nervous system. So, how are you going to go through the next couple training sessions, the next time that you're on the mat, with some awareness? Are you open to asking yourself whether or not you're regulated or dysregulated? One of the easiest resourcing techniques I can give you is those two questions. You know, we have to continually become familiar with this dialogue. And then I want you to be able to play with something called orientating. So orientating is really self-explanatory in the sense that it is exactly what it says it is. You're going to orientate yourself in time and space. So I've talked about this in other videos. What I do when I can feel myself becoming dysregulated or triggered or activated, getting into a heightened hyper arousal state when I'm doing my Jiu Jitsu, is I'll touch my gi, I'll touch the collar, I'll hold my belt. I will clock what is in the room, the tatami, the shrine, the picture of Soke, the TV, the ceiling tiles, what lights are on, the incense holder. I will feel the patterns on the mat, on the tatami. I will orientate my consciousness into the now moment so that I can pull myself into the present. And that is a super useful, handy tool that you can do anywhere, anytime. You can do it outside of the dojo. You can do it at a dinner party. You can do it if you're in class, at work, if you're with a difficult family member. You can feel yourself starting to get activated. Orientate yourself. Look at what's in the room. Where is your body? What are you sitting on? Are you standing? Where do your clothes meet your skin? Where is your skin exposed? Anything that you can bring your attention into the now moment to orientate will help bring your breathing down, bring that baseline back, and encourage regulation. So where am I at? 18 minutes. I think I'll leave it there. It's my first 2023 video. I'm doing it from my home studio, my beautiful picture of Levi behind me that my daughter painted for me. And I'd love to hear from you if you like this long form and any questions that you have about nervous system regulation and why you might think it's important, or why do you not think it's important? Or do you think it's like not manly to talk about it? I know I'm not supposed to talk about like in gender terms, but I don't really follow rules. And so I am going to talk about it that way because we have all been conditioned the way we've been conditioned. And I know from my own personal experience and the people in my life, it is a common belief that men don't talk about their feelings and this can be a little too touchy-feely. And that is not my intention at all. I feel like this is another tool for your tool belt to learn how you show up in the world so that you can be a good training partner and you can be a better human in the world and be better for yourself. That's most important. Be able to show up for yourself consistently by understanding what nervous system regulation is. All right, my friends, till next time.